This is the Tesla Model Y, America's best-selling electric vehicle. It weighs 4,156 pounds and contains over 10,000 individual parts. But in the fall of 2025, Elon Musk issued an order that sent shockwaves through his supply chain. Give us 1 to 2 years to eliminate every single Chinese component. The reason was straightforward. Half the parts in Tesla's North American factories came from China, and tariffs had driven up the cost of each vehicle by $5,000. Here's the problem though. The most critical components, the ones that really matter, they can't be replaced. Open up the rear drive unit of a Model Y and you'll find an electric motor assembly weighing 1,904 pounds. That's less than 5% of the car's total weight. Look deeper into the motor's rotor and you'll discover several permanent magnets. These magnets weigh just 1.1 pounds. That's 0.02% of the entire vehicle. But without them, this car doesn't move. And buried inside those 1.1 pounds of magnets is an even smaller secret: rare earth elements. China controls 90% of the world's rare earth refining capacity. In the fall of 2025, China's Ministry of Commerce issued a new regulation. Any product manufactured abroad that contains even 0.1% Chinese rare earth content now requires Chinese approval for export. Days later, Donald Trump took to social media, threatening to slap a 100% tariff on Chinese goods. But Wall Street responded with a crash. The S&P 500 dropped 2.7%. The Nasdaq fell 3.6%. Because everyone understood a simple truth. When one country controls the raw materials your military depends on, tariffs only hurt yourself. This is war without gunfire, and the battlefield exists in that 0.02% of weight. In the fall of 2025, China's Ministry of Commerce released new regulations wrapped in the driest bureaucratic language imaginable. Export controls on certain foreign rare earth-related items containing Chinese components. The scope was deceptively simple. Any foreign manufactured magnet containing 0.1% or more Chinese heavy rare earth elements requires Chinese approval for export. Even if you mine rare earths in Australia, process them in Malaysia, and use American-funded factories, if just 0.1% comes from Chinese rare earths or Chinese technology, you need Beijing's permission. This is the Chinese version of extraterritorial jurisdiction. The new rules made another thing crystal clear. Export applications involving military use would be generally denied. The procurement department at Lockheed Martin Corporation found itself in serious trouble. The F-35 fighter jet, America's most advanced fifth-generation aircraft, requires 417 kilograms of rare earth permanent magnets per plane. Without those magnets, the aircraft's propulsion system is just expensive scrap metal. A report from the defense analysis firm Gabini laid out the numbers. 8,000 components across 1,900 American weapon systems depend on Chinese mineral supplies. 88% of the U.S. military-industrial supply chain cannot function without Chinese companies. Rare earth samarium goes into intercontinental ballistic missile guidance systems, where precision is everything. Rare earth yttrium powers the laser rangefinders in artillery, the key to accurate strikes. High-temperature magnets made from rare earth dysprosium and terbium form the core components of F-35 engines, maintaining their magnetic properties even above 200 degrees Celsius. Cut off the supply, and you cut off American military superiority. Days later, Trump fired off his threat. Starting next month, we're hitting Chinese goods with a 100% tariff. We're implementing export controls on all critical software. The market's response told a different story. U.S. stocks plunged across the board that day. Tariffs can't solve problems rooted in technology and supply chains. Take MP Materials, the company that owns America's only large-scale rare earth mine in California. In 2024, they extracted 4.3 million kilograms of rare earths. But here's the catch. Most of that raw ore still gets shipped back to China for refining because America doesn't have adequate separation and processing capacity. The result? They're selling rare earths for 9.2 yuan per pound, cheaper than cabbage. In the first half of 2024, MP Materials lost $17.57 million on rare earth mining operations alone. That's about 128 million yuan. Mining at a loss. That's the state of America's rare earth industry. The real problem with this standoff doesn't lie in the present. It's buried in how America spent the last several decades systematically losing its rare earth dominance. Back in 1975, when China established its Rare Earth Development Leadership Group, the Mountain Pass mine in America dominated global rare earth production. It controlled the world's supply. China was just beginning to study rare earths, with no technology and zero experience. But over the next 20 years, America made a series of decisions that look painfully expensive in hindsight. From the late 1970s through the 1990s, the United States opened up its rare earth mining and processing technology to China, even allowing Chinese scientists deep access to core mining sites and refining facilities. In 1995, the US government approved the sale of General Motors' Rare Earth Magnet Division, Magnequench, to a Chinese consortium. This division held the world's most advanced rare earth permanent magnet manufacturing technology at the time. Within a few years, all American factories closed, and production capacity, technology, and patents transferred entirely to China. The truly fatal blow came in China had been tightening rare earth export quotas, driving prices skyward. The Mountain Pass mine reopened, with plans to revive America's domestic rare earth supply chain. The US government joined forces with the European Union and Japan to sue China at the World Trade Organization, accusing China of trade rule violations through export quotas. In 2014, the WTO ruled in America's favor. China eliminated its export quotas. Rare earth prices collapsed. Chinese rare earths flooded the international market, driving prices down to levels where American mining companies couldn't survive. In 2015, Molycorp went bankrupt. Mountain Pass shut down. America's rare earth industry went to zero. Meanwhile, China completed a massive industry consolidation between 2011 and 2020. Dozens of small mines and small refineries were shut down or merged, forming 6 major state-owned rare earth groups. This consolidation gave the Chinese government precise control over the nation's rare earth mining, refining, and exports. Smuggling virtually disappeared. Industry concentration soared. By 2014, when America's Mountain Pass mine went bankrupt, China had built a supply chain empire that was nearly impossible to challenge. From 1991, when America held the position as the world's largest rare earth supplier, to 2014, when American rare earth mining hit zero, it took just 23 years. In 2024, China produced 270,000 tons of rare earths, representing 70% of global production. America produced 43,000 tons, accounting for 12%. On the surface, that's a 6-fold gap, but that's just the surface number. The real killer isn't in mining, it's in refining. China controls 90% of the world's rare earth smelting and separation capacity. Raw rare earth ore is just a mixed pile of minerals containing 17 different rare earth elements jumbled together. Separating them one by one, creating high-purity oxides or metals suitable for industrial use, requires strong acids, high temperatures, complex chemical processes, and generates massive quantities of wastewater containing radioactive elements. Environmental costs are astronomical. Technical barriers are sky-high. China spent 40 years building a complete technological system and environmental processing capability. Other countries around the world either lack the technology or face environmental standards so strict that costs become prohibitive, making operations impossible for companies to sustain profitably. Australia's Lynas Corporation currently stands as the world's largest rare earth supplier outside China. They mine in Australia and process at facilities in Malaysia. But here's the problem. Lynas's refining technology was originally developed in cooperation with Chinese companies, and some critical equipment and raw materials still come from China. Now, if a product contains even 0.1% Chinese content, it needs Chinese approval for export. Even if you don't manufacture in China, if you use Chinese technology, equipment, or materials, your export rights sit in Chinese hands. For the military-industrial complex, this represents a genuine nightmare. The F-35 fighter jet's engine operates above 200 degrees Celsius. It must use high-performance magnets containing the heavy rare earths dysprosium and terbium, or magnetic properties degrade significantly. Intercontinental ballistic missile guidance systems depend on precision magnets made from rare earth samarium, where error margins can't exceed 1,000th. Artillery laser rangefinders use laser crystals made from rare earth yttrium. Submarine sonar systems require magnetostrictive materials made from rare earth holmium. These applications have no substitutes. The vast majority of the world's heavy rare earths come from either China or conflict zones in Myanmar, and Myanmar's rare earths ultimately get shipped to China for refining anyway. America hasn't been sitting idle. Since Trump's first term, the US government has poured over $1 billion into the rare earth industry. In mid-2025, MP Materials secured a massive investment package, $400 million in preferred stock from the US Department of Defense, plus a $1 billion loan commitment, along with a 10-year minimum price guarantee for neodymium praseodymium oxide at $110 per kilogram. That price already sits 30% above market rates. Essentially, the government is using taxpayer money to provide a safety net for the company. The Rare Earth Magnet Security Act also passed in early 2025. Domestically produced magnets receive a $20 per kilogram subsidy. If 90% of components come from American suppliers, that subsidy jumps to $30 per kilogram. But money can't solve the problems that really matter. MP Materials plans to build a complete supply chain from mining to magnet production by But in 2024, they produced just 1,294 tons of neodymium praseodymium oxide. Global demand sits at 150,000 tons. Even if they multiply production capacity tenfold by 2027, they'd only meet less than 10% of global demand. Time costs represent a massive barrier. The technical generation gap problem runs even deeper. America's last generation of rare earth refining experts have mostly retired or passed away. Training a qualified rare earth separation engineer takes 10 to 15 years. China, meanwhile, has tens of thousands of experienced technicians, a complete research and development system connecting academia and industry, and decades of accumulated process expertise. Management at USA Rare Earth assessed market demand and found that the performance specifications customers require represent the results of China's 40 years of sustained investment. Replicating that in the short term simply isn't possible. Environmental challenges present another nearly insurmountable obstacle. Rare earth refining generates wastewater containing radioactive elements like thorium and uranium. Improper handling causes severe environmental pollution. The Environmental Protection Agency maintains extremely strict environmental standards. Companies face lengthy approval processes for building refineries, with costs that are prohibitively expensive. China, after 40 years of exploration, has built a relatively mature environmental processing system with controllable costs. The heavy rare earths problem is even more lethal. More than 90% of the world's heavy rare earths come from China or Myanmar, and Myanmar's rare earths ultimately get shipped to China for refining. This means even if America can solve the mining and refining problems for light rare earths, dependence on China for heavy rare earths remains unavoidable. While America scrambles to catch up, China has been rolling out a new combination of moves. In the fall of 2024, the Rare Earth Management Regulation officially took effect, the first dedicated legislation for China's rare earth industry. The regulation makes it clear: rare earth resources belong to the state. Protective mining is mandatory. Mining and smelting separation operate under total quantity control. More critically, the regulation established a rare earth product information tracing system. Every single gram of rare earth gets an identification number, fully traceable from mining to export. Black market rare earth smuggling became history. In early 2025, the administrative measures for total quantity control of rare earth mining and smelting separation rolled out, making it explicit that only large rare earth groups organized by the state can obtain mining and refining quotas. This directly formed a north-south industrial pattern. In the north, the Northern Rare Earth Group controls the Bayan Obo mine in Inner Mongolia, dominating light rare earth mining and refining. In the south, the China Rare Earth Group controls ion adsorption rare earth mines in Jiangxi, Fujian, Guangdong, and Guangxi, dominating heavy rare earth mining and refining. These two groups carved up more than 90% of China's rare earth production capacity. This concentration exceeds even the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC. OPEC controls about 40% of global oil production. China controls 90% of global rare earth refining capacity. In the spring of 2025, China's Ministry of Commerce and General Administration of Customs issued new regulations implementing export controls on 7 heavy rare earths: samarium, gadolinium, terbium, dysprosium, holmium, erbium, and ytterbium. All 7 elements serve critical roles in high-end military and cutting-edge technology. First, samarium, primarily used in intercontinental ballistic missile guidance systems. Second, gadolinium, used in nuclear reactor control rods and MRI contrast agents. Terbium goes into precision optical instruments and LiDAR. Dysprosium is the key to manufacturing high-temperature permanent magnets, especially the core components of F-35 engines. Holmium primarily serves laser surgical equipment and nuclear reactor control. Erbium is an essential material for fiber optic communication amplifiers. Ytterbium powers high-power laser weapons. The new regulations make it explicit: exports involving military use will be generally denied. Then came the fall 2025 upgraded controls, expanding the scope to foreign products containing 0.1% or more Chinese content. Imagine America imports rare earths from Australia, refines them in Japan, manufactures them into magnets in South Korea, and finally installs them in American-made weapons. If any link in that supply chain uses 0.1% Chinese rare earths or Chinese technology, export requires Chinese approval. This isn't simple export control. This is extraterritorial jurisdiction over supply chains. And the timing of China's combination of moves was extraordinarily precise. In 2024, global rare earth prices plunged. Neodymium praseodymium oxide dropped from 443,000 yuan per ton at the start of the year to 398,000 yuan per ton by year-end, a decline exceeding 10%. Companies like Northern Rare Earth and Shenghe Resources saw profits fall sharply, some even posting losses. But this represented China actively clearing out inefficient production capacity, preparing for stricter controls. Prices fell, but production didn't. In 2024, China's rare earth quota growth slowed, but remained stable at 270,000 tons. What this demonstrates is that China's control over the rare earth industry has shifted from market regulation to planned management. China's control of 90% of global rare earth refining capacity didn't happen overnight. It represents 40 years of technological accumulation, industrial consolidation, and environmental investment. America's catch-up effort will require at least 10 years and investment in the hundreds of billions of dollars, with no guarantee of success. And during those 10 years, deep-sea rare earth extraction technology continues advancing, urban mining recycling systems are being built, and next-generation high-performance magnetic materials research accelerates. The gap isn't closing, it's widening. In the 18th century, Britain dominated the first industrial revolution through coal and steam engines. In the 20th century, America dominated the second industrial revolution through oil and internal combustion engines. In the 21st century, whoever controls rare earths holds the key to the new energy revolution. Tesla wants to replace all Chinese components within 1 to 2 years. But those 1.1 pounds of rare earth permanent magnets, that 0.02% of the vehicle's weight, represent 100% of the control. This isn't a trade war. This is a struggle for industrial civilization's voice. When your military lifeline sits in another country's hands, sanctions always hurt yourself.